Last night I was thinking about you, the kind of thinking that lingers long after the moon has disappeared from view, when the quiet of the night allows the mind to wander to places it would never dare visit during the rush of daylight. I didn't mean to think about you. It just happened, like an old song playing softly in the background, sneaking into the forefront of my mind when I wasn't paying attention. I had been sitting by the window, staring out at the darkened city streets below. The soft hum of the world at night filled the air, almost as if the world itself were holding its breath. My thoughts, however, weren't as quiet. They were loud, insistent, demanding attention from parts of my heart that I had long ago decided to bury. You had been gone for a long time, long enough for me to convince myself that I had moved on. Time has a way of doing that, doesn't it? Of numbing the edges of grief, of dulling the sharpness of pain until it feels like it's no longer there at all. But last night it felt fresh again, that familiar ache that had once filled every corner of my life. I ran my fingers over the glass of the window, watching as condensation began to form in the cold air. Outside, the streetlights cast their yellow glow onto the pavement, and in my mind, I could see you there, standing just out of reach, as you always had been. I wondered what you would say to me if you were here now. Would you smile that crooked smile of yours? Would you pull me into an embrace as though nothing had changed, even though everything had? I wondered if you missed me too, or if, like you always said, you were too busy with your own life to even think about the past. But I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Not last night, at least. I think I had come to understand, in some strange, deep way, that we weren't meant to be. The universe had other plans for us, plans we couldn't fight no matter how much we wanted to. And so we'd parted ways. Still, the memories lingered. They always do, don't they? I stood from the window, pacing slowly around my apartment. My steps were soft, but the thoughts in my head echoed as loudly as if they were crashing against the walls. Memories of us, of how we had been, flowed through me like a river that refused to stop. There were days when I could almost touch them. The way your laugh felt when it tickled the air between us. The way your hand felt in mine as we walked through the park. The way you looked at me sometimes with those searching eyes, as if you were trying to figure out the deepest parts of my soul. And I wondered, for the first time in a long while, if you had ever really known me at all. Or had I only ever been a reflection of your own desires and needs? Had I ever really existed outside of the small world we'd created? My phone buzzed suddenly, cutting through my thoughts. A message from a friend. I opened it absent-mindedly, the words blurring in front of my eyes. Something about dinner plans for next week. Something about a new movie to watch. I glanced at the clock, 3:47 a.m. I wasn't sure what I had expected, but it certainly wasn't this. Wasn't someone trying to pull me back into the world of the living when my thoughts were so heavily anchored in the past. The message felt distant, a reminder that life was still moving on for everyone else. And then I realized it wasn't just everyone else who was moving on. It was me too. Slowly, surely, I was moving on as well, even if last night, in the dark of my room, I could still feel the tug of the past pulling at my heart. I sat down at the kitchen table, my fingers tapping absent-mindedly on the wood. There was a time when I could have shared my thoughts with you, when I could have called you, told you exactly what was going on in my mind. But that was a long time ago, before the distance had grown so wide between us. Now the words were trapped inside me, unable to escape, because there was no one left to listen. I took a deep breath, closing my eyes, letting the silence of the room settle around me. The silence that had become my constant companion since you left. I felt a pang of sorrow, the kind that comes when you know you've lost something irreplaceable. But there was something else too, a strange sense of peace, as if I had finally accepted that I was no longer that person, the one who had once believed that you and I were forever. But how do you let go of forever? That's the question I had been asking myself since you left. How do you let go of something that felt so certain, so right? The truth, I suppose, was that I couldn't. Not all at once, anyway, but I was learning to let go, piece by piece, moment by moment, and perhaps that was all anyone could ever do. I stood and